Several key developments today as we fight against COVID-19. Huge concerns about the availability of hospital beds in Bengaluru, which has been witnessing a steady rise in case. The month of June has been particularly bad. We'll be talking about that situation in Bengaluru, but also a report in the LA Times that suggests that secret deals are keeping COVID-19 drugs away from millions. Not necessarily in India, where generic versions of the drug are being manufactured, but for other countries, including the US, Brazil and Russia, which will not be allowed the generic versions, which are being made among other nations in India, with several Indian companies manufacturing them. The versions being made in India will be cheaper, and will instead, the other countries which don't get it will have to rely on the branded drug Remdesivir, manufactured by Gilead, which sells for as much as $2,340 for a 5-day course. Yes, it is far cheaper in India with the generic drugs, but is it still too expensive for many? That's because some reports suggest that a single vial of the drug made in India, the generic version, could cost upwards of $70. In other words, more than 5,000 rupees per vial. Well, joining us now to look at both the Bangalore situation and indeed Remdesivir and these drugs in India, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Executive Chairperson of Biocon, one of the companies which will be manufacturing the drugs in India. I'm also joined by K.M. Gopakumar, author and senior researcher at the Third World Network. Ms. Shaw, let me come to you first. Is it correct, and you would have seen this LA Times report, that a single vial of the generic version of Remdesivir made in India would cost upwards of $70? Is that right?
You know, you must understand that this is a very expensive drug to make because it is a lyophilized vial. And I hope people understand the difference between a pill and a lyophilized vial. These have to be made under very stringent aseptic conditions. And it is very expensive to make these kind of products. Plus the API itself is a very complex API which is expensive to begin with. So I personally believe that, the kind of price point that India is paying for Remdesivir is not hugely expensive compared to what is being charged by Gilead in other parts of the world. So you can certainly bring down the price a little bit, but I don't think it is unreasonably high.
Ma'am, one more question to you. In the future, when there are other drugs other than Remdesivir which come into the market, then as I understand it, Gilead would start receiving royalties. At that stage, royalties for the sale of Remdesivir's generic versions, at that stage, wouldn't the price of these generic versions of Remdesivir also shoot up?
Please understand that, Vishnu, please understand that the royalties being charged by Gilead are absolutely insignificant because they are charging you a very small royalty on your selling price, not on their selling price. Okay. So, I don't think that's going to make any difference. Okay. So the kind of royalties one has to pay is very small and it's on your selling price. So I don't think it makes a difference to the cost of the product.
Okay. Mr. Gopakumar, at the end of the day, it is true that patients in India would be receiving our drugs, the variants of Remdesivir over here, at a fraction of the cost that it's available elsewhere. But do you still believe that the price, since it would be upwards of 5,000 rupees a single vial most likely, would still place it far more than what many would be able to afford for an entire 5-day course?
Of course, a patient requires, as per the treatment guidelines, around 7 vials. So that's roughly put around 35,000 rupees apart from the charges for injections and the syringes and or the canola you use it. So in a private hospital, you would be spending at least 45,000 to 50,000 rupees to complete the course. And the price, which is 70,000, is extremely higher because there are studies which have come out what is the exact cost of production of these medicines. One of the famous person who look at the costing of medicines or the cost of productions of medicine, Andrew Hill of Liverpool University, has come out with the estimation, and according to him, around $9, roughly $9 is the cost of whole course with a profit. Okay, it is not a simple cost. Cost plus reasonable profit, it would be around $9 plus. So if you take it $10, okay, so that means roughly around 700 rupees, 750 rupees.
It's an important point you're mentioning, but Ms. Shaw disagrees. I can see her nodding her head quite vehemently. Ma'am, how much does it cost to make a vial in India?
See, first and foremost, you must understand what is the cost of the API. Okay, if the API, the cost that whoever this professor is not looking at the vialing cost. He is not talking about the lyophilized vialing cost. He must be talking about the API cost and how many milligrams you put into an API. That is not the cost of the drug product. Please understand there's a huge difference between the drug substance and the drug product. I don't think people even realize what goes into making a drug product. So I think, Dr. Gopakumar, I don't agree with you. I don't think the cost estimates are correctly arrived at. I really think we need to look at the actual cost estimates when we actually see. I don't have those numbers right now, but I can tell you that it may not, maybe the $70, the price that you're talking about, the $70 might have a certain element of profit in it. But I don't think, the price is going to be like $10 as Dr. Gopakumar is alluding to. I think it will be between the two. I think that you have to add to this the cost of the drug product, which is quite high. And then maybe you can get a price between, say, $40 to $70, which is what is being charged right now. But I don't think it's going to be cheap. That much I'll tell you.
Dr. Gopakumar, in the case of government hospitals, which deal with the large number of COVID cases in India, wouldn't it be the government that would need to buy these drugs in large numbers? In other words, what I'm asking you is that people who go to government hospitals won't necessarily have to pay for most of the costs of treatment.
Of course, before coming to your question, so just one point of clarification. Let's say, according to Madam Shah, the price is not the cost of production is actually not because of the API, but because of the vialing processes. So I would urge all the generic manufacturers to declare the cost of production. Let's have some transparency in this regard. Okay, vialing alone will not cost around $70. Okay, it should come down, and even if it's $10, if Andrew Hill's estimation, it can go maximum up to $10 more, but no way it can go at $70 per vial.
But that's what Ms. Shaw seems to suggest as well, that number of 70 might be a bit inflated. But to that point, ma'am, Ms. Shaw, would you agree that there needs to be transparency?
We need to have a transparency in the whole costing.
In what the costing is over here, or is that something which you are contractually obliged not to reveal, not just you, but the other Indian manufacturers as well?
I think, Vishnu, you need competition to bring down the pricing to the right level. At the moment, there is only one supplier of Remdesivir, so obviously they're trying to maximize whatever they can realize. But I think when you get 2 or 3 people competing in the market, you will find the real price point balancing out. You have to do that. You have to wait for that time. But I think what is even more, important for us to understand is that in India, we are pricing it at $70, whereas but in the West, it is being priced at $900. So you must understand that we are still benefiting from a very low price point compared to the rest of the world.
Ms. Shaw, the other point, and since this is a global pandemic, is that you would not be able to sell the variant of Remdesivir you're making to, say, the United States, because your prices are much lower, right? You wouldn't be able to sell it to Russia. You wouldn't be able to sell it to Peru or Brazil. Because Gilead, the manufacturer of the drug, wants to sell its own branded version. That costs much more, the same price which you mentioned. But the point I'm asking is that at a time of a global pandemic, ma'am, is there not an ethical issue over here that life-saving drugs need to be sold across the world at the lowest possible price?
So I think low and middle income countries, and there are 90 countries to which India is allowed to supply this generic version of the drug.
I see.
I think Gilead has used the same model that it has used for Hep C drugs and HIV drugs and other antivirals that it has produced. But I think what we need to really focus on right now is our own needs. I think we are going to be able to export it to many of the low and middle income countries which really needs drugs at these prices. And I'm sure there's going to be a mechanism whereby even Gilead itself will not be doing this kind of price gouging outside the US.
That's an important point. Dr. Gopakumar, would you agree that really does answer the question, that it's not as if every market, even those which are of more affluent countries, would be charged $5,000 or $2,340 for a 5-day course? The prices would come down, maybe not in America, but elsewhere.
So it's a very important point that only competition can bring down the price. However, there won't be any competition because the generic companies in India who are manufacturing is under a license, so their hands are tied. So they have been asked to supply at a particular set of countries. So the middle-income country markets have been completely deprived of, from that scope of license. As a result, these companies have to compete only within that limited number of countries, and as a result, it's a privately ordered competition. So there will not be any kind of an effective competition.
Sure.
So it will be a closed club, and that will, that will in a way effectively act like a cartel. Okay,
right.
So that will not bring down the price
that
beyond
concern of an oligarchy or cartelization is there.
Yeah,
but Ms.
kind
Shaw,
of oligopoly market.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ms. Shaw, I just wanted to focus with you on the other big concern, Bangalore, its situation. Now, according to a new report, and these are government-affiliated bodies, Bangalore witnessed its sharpest increase in the month of June of COVID. It increased by 460% in terms of the absolute value. It increased from 451 to 2,531. The case positivity load went up as well. So after Bombay, Mumbai, Delhi, is Bengaluru next in terms of a real worry of a spike?
Well, I must tell you, Vishnu, that it is a big cause of worry for all of us, because I think we were doing so well during the lockdown. And I think we became complacent when the lockdown was lifted. And I think we used technology very effectively before the lockdown, but we are not using it effectively after the lockdown. And I think that has got us into a lot of trouble. I think we suddenly started dropping the amount of testing. And, you can see what this has caused to us. So, of course, right now we are in a situation where we want to quickly reverse the trends. And I think there's a lot of effort now going into upping the testing levels and having a strategic plan of testing and making sure that we do the containment and the zoning very effectively like we used to do in the past. And plus, we are now looking at triaging the patients into hospitals, because even our hospitals are being overwhelmed. So it is a big cause for worry, and I think the government is being told and influenced into taking rapid action.
One final question, Dr. Shaw, on this. The spike in case positivity has had a direct impact on Bengaluru's recovery rate, which crashed from 81% at one time to 21%. The spike in case positivity, that indicates that it's probably out there. We don't like to sort of say that it's out in the open, but that's probably just what it is right now. You don't know the source of the person who's got it.
Yeah, I think one of the good bits of information that I have gleaned is that even though the test positivity rates have suddenly shot up, what I am also told is that most of the patients who are in hospitals are very mild cases. And so you're likely to see that recovery rate again, surge in the coming weeks, because many of these patients who have tested positive are likely to recover very soon and be discharged. So I think the low rates right now of recovery is because you've seen this huge surge of patients getting into hospitals.
Sure.
But most of these people are asymptomatic and mild. So I expect again the recovery rate to start increasing in the next few weeks.
All right.
But I think that
yes.
said, That said, I think we still need to make sure that we focus on testing, tracking, and treating.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank both of you very much for joining us to look at the issue of drug availability and also Bengaluru as well. I'd like to thank you both very much for joining us. Out of time, we'll take this short break.